The next trash I'm analyzing for your amusement is Magi, a manga that a lot of people seem to like at first and then lost all interest because it was all over the place. You can see that right in the first chapter where the plot keeps jumping around from one thing to another. The first scene establishes the protagonist being hungry and in possession of a monster that can beat several people. The second scene establishes the protagonist being willing to steal food if he's hungry, but once he's caught he's willing to work for the food he stole. Notice how he's not using his monster for easily getting all the food he wants, or for doing jobs that will get him enough money so he won't have to steal, meaning he's a retard. The third scene establishes the protagonist as a molester. He has a huge boob fetish and he will be constantly sexually harassing women without wondering if they are okay with it first. What a great way to make most of the potential audience to dislike the main character in the very first chapter. Now the only ones who will like him are the sexual predators. The fourth scene establishes how dumb everyone is. Some thieves reveal how they lure people so they can rob them, thus ruining their plan, and the people who hear that believe them right away. Because why would you not believe complete strangers who refer to themselves as thieves, calling someone else a thief? These are clearly trustworthy people you should believe without a question. The fifth scene is about the protagonist using his overpowered genie to defeat any opponent who stands in his way, as well as a flashback that shows how that genie came to his possession. He wished for the genie to be his friend, which is a very evil act, since you can't wish someone you just met to be your friend without brainwashing him. And that was just the first chapter. Oh boy. After that, the protagonist sticks his head in man boobs. Not because he tripped as they do in harems, he deliberately did that because he has a boob fetish and that is supposed to be funny. Anyways, the man boob person is a wine merchant and he would rather save his merchandise than the life of someone. So when a weird hentai tentacle monster attacks his cart, it's up to the protagonist and his MacGuffin flute that summons the genie to save the day. As a reward for this act, we get more sexual predator comedy. I need to make clear that this manga constantly objectifies and mistreats women whenever it can. It does it in such a degree that all men come off as one-dimensional evil rapists. I get that women were mistreated in ancient times, but the manga is specifically being mean to women for cheap victimizing. The theme is not about women's rights, it's mostly about what a good king is about and how there can be equality before a law. Sexually molesting women has nothing to do with that. It's a sick fetish for cheap thrills and supposed comedy. The protagonist, for example, is a horn dog, but because he helps out people with his MacGuffin flute, we are supposed to not mind it when he does it. That aside, the mistreatment of women is not part of the themes, and thus it's not fine to accept it. In Volume 2, the protagonist is exploring a dungeon for a treasure. At the end of it, they throw in some silly message about who deserves to be a king, but it's all childish nonsense since all you are left with is a one-dimensional evil asshole and a protagonist with a boob fetish who always relies on his MacGuffin flute for fixing every problem. The answer was obvious and one-sided since the protagonist was given the moral high ground. In Volume 3, the mangaka can't settle on a single idea. Now we are in a Far East setting where the men are still one-dimensional evil rapists who kidnap women as breeding machines. The main villain harms both sides that live peacefully, so they will go to war and he will be king at the end of it. His plan works out until the protagonist once again overwhelms him with his MacGuffin flute and no war happens. If it wasn't apparent already, the resolutions are anticlimactic since nobody can challenge the protagonist's genie. The plot can easily move in whatever direction the mangaka wants because of that simple fact. In Volume 4, the protagonist goes back to the Arabic setting and teams up with a slave girl he helped out in the dungeon. Despite getting captured again, she doesn't need help anymore, since she's overpowered. She easily kicks the crap out of the slavers and frees the slaves. Again, everything is dull since it's just a shonen character beating up weak bodies who are being assholes to women. There's no theme about slavery here, it's plain revenge porn. In Volume 5, the protagonist and the former slave girl want to help a king to stop a rebel group led by the man who the protagonist also helped during the dungeon. They introduce magic abilities for making the battles a bit more elaborate than just one person beating up normies, but the damage is already done since it's the 5th volume. What took you so long? Half the audience will have noped out by now. Anyways, in order to show why the man joined the rebels, a very, very long flashback happens that shows his life story, and oh my god, was it boring to read! Flashbacks are supposed to be short, to the point, and they should not overshadow the events in the present. This shit was 100 pages of constant narration and time skips to a dozen events, most of which were nothing special. Guess how many more noped out because of it? In Volume 6, another 100 pages pass where all we see is people talking about the politics of the world. Nothing is happening, nobody does anything, not even the fights matter, they end and nothing is resolved. In Volume 7, they storm the palace of the king and demand a republic because the people are suffering. Because as we all know, in a republic people are not suffering. They make it seem as if there can't possibly be a good monarch, but that is a lie. Good leaders can exist in any political system. Except communism, that is impossible to happen. Then they start debating about fucking politics in the throne room, which would make sense if they were delegates of different political parties, but they are not. It's between the royals who got attacked just 5 minutes ago and had dozens of their soldiers killed, and the rebels who just 5 minutes ago attacked the palace. Who the shit would stop this massacre to have a civilized debate as soon as he runs in the throne room with a bloodied sword? This manga is dumb. And it tries to expose its own dumbness in Volume 8 when the leader of the rebellion gets possessed by darkness, what is this, Kingdom Hearts, and makes everyone to start killing each other. Because he knows there can't be any of that equality bullshit they are talking about. People are not born equal, nor they are treated equally, not even in a republic. The ones who shape the world are the strong and the privileged. Guess what the one who wants a republic is? A prince with his own superpowers and a huge fortune. So how does everyone stop hating and killing each other? With a superpower that the protagonist uses that summons the spirits of the dead. Do they slaughter everyone as they did in Lord of the Rings? No, they make the ones fighting to start crying. And then everyone stops fighting. So much for politics. It came down to broken superpowers that magically make people stop fighting with the power of friendship and love or some bullshit. This manga is dumb and so far I didn't like a single thing in it. The plot continues with the characters fighting an evil organization that wants to spread darkness in the world. Which means people in this setting are not evil because they want to, it's because they are being manipulated into being evil by some power of darkness. What a lovely way to destroy the socio-political themes. It's not selfish rulers being mean to everyone anymore, it's a dark power that mind controls them. This dark organization sends bad guys to kill the main characters so they can spread darkness into the world. And they do that by literally jumping out of nowhere in the story. They kick the crap out of the good guys until more powerful good guys also jump out of nowhere to save them. Because who gives a shit about proper build-ups? It's not an adventure about finding a good king anymore. It's about people jumping out of nowhere with no build-up so they can stop darkness from spreading into the world. After that, the manga becomes an aimless action adventure. Besides their power levels going up, they don't do anything towards stopping that evil organization. In fact, it's like they forgot about that and the main plot is not moving forward. At the same time, it's not filler, since as far as world building goes, they explore different civilizations and they gain new abilities and allies from every mission. First they fight pirates, then one of them goes to a magic academy, another one becomes a gladiator. Despite all that, the main objective has been completely forgotten, the arcs are loosely connected, and you will often wonder where are we going and what's the point in any of this. Midway through the manga, the various powerful nations go to war with each other and things seem to get epic since you get long discussions about politics and how the people must not suffer by the powerful. There are elaborate segments where we see huge armies mobilizing and using all sorts of tactics in battles. It looks epic and seems to be getting to something good. And then the protagonist appears and uses his Hack's magic for scaring the army into retreating without killing a single person. A build-up to a war that keeps escalating for 20 chapters ends with a shonen hero flexing how broken his superpowers are. The mangaka doesn't know how to handle the themes she wants to explore. On one hand, she wants to be realistic with elaborate societies and army tactics, and on the other hand, she resolves everything in a hurry as if it's a fairy tale, with a Hack's shonen protagonist who is a pacifist and can end huge wars without having to kill anyone. Then the power scaling goes whack as the next guy who gets possessed by darkness is not just stronger than the previous ones they fought so far. He's so strong he summons a giant that can destroy the whole world, and it takes the combined effort of a dozen overpowered warriors to stop it. The fight is amazing if you see it as an isolated event, but the build up to it is just not there. Half of the overpowered dudes in the fight were hardly shown so far. We don't know them or have any idea how the hell they appeared in battle all of a sudden. It's not like the mangaka rushes to get to the next major event without spending any time on building up the conflict. She spends dozens of chapters in fleshing out societies, but not the major fighters who eventually end every conflict. After that, the mangaka completely forgets what manga she's supposed to be making and spends hundreds of pages in narrating the history of a different world. It's basically a summary of the most important events of the past, with constant time skips and a lot of narration. It's very epic in scope, but that doesn't change the fact that it's not the same story. There's not even a plot for dozens of chapters because all we get is a flashback that is longer than most arcs in the actual story. The mangaka clearly doesn't give a shit about plot anymore, she just narrates any weird ideas she had about a different setting, not even the one the story takes place in. A competent mangaka would have shown all that gradually as the main plot unfolds, which if you remember was about dungeons, genies and a search for a good king. All that got wasted on a creepy protagonist who molests women, long battles with characters we don't care about because no time was spent on them, an evil organization that is hardly seen doing anything, and all that is wrong in the world being some magical darkness that makes you do bad things. All you are left with is a cool concept with a terribly dull execution. Anyways, after that there is a huge time skip where one of the major characters who should be dead magically survives, because there is no such thing as permanent death in modern shonen. The manga becomes a tourist guide since the only thing he does is going from one place to another and seeing how the world changed out of screen. It feels like a civilization building story, but it's not, since we are not shown the building part. We don't get to see the change, we are only shown the result. At least the evil organization finally makes an appearance, only to get completely obliterated in a few pages by the broken protagonist. How satisfactory. Now let's go back to the tourist guide where nothing happens. Also, I know it's expected to have that in every shonen, but it's still something that ruins the tension every single time. The protagonist is both royalty and the chosen one. He is the son of the most awesome king of all times, and is also a wizard with the most Hack's powers. Meaning every opponent he faced so far was a typical mortal who never stood a chance against him, and who was also beneath him both in rank and in inborn potential. Because there is no such thing as a real underdog in modern shonen. Anyways, the last arc is about the final villain wanting to destroy reality so he can become a god. Although there is action again, it doesn't matter, since like always it comes down to a debate about freedom versus control. The ontological side of this debate is very interesting as a concept, since destiny in this setting is defined by the gods, who are distant and frankly we never see them. They are too abstract to make sense and exist on a higher plane of existence. In this unusual take, the people of the world have been brainwashed and want to return to nothingness, because the final villain reprogrammed them to desire that. Meaning nobody besides the Magi and their super special allies have actual free will, the rest are just behaving however they have been programmed to behave. You know, like programs in a video game. So yeah, it's like Attack on Titan, where they don't have free will and do whatever the gods want them to do. Anyways, every overpowered character in the show fires his Kamehameha at the final bad guy and the world is saved, even if it looks like a complete mess because of the partial reality warping fuss. A new age of adventure and exploration begins where everything has to be discovered and built from scratch. Meaning all those hundreds of pages that were spent on talking about societies are now completely useless, and you wasted your time remembering what they were about. Also, everyone is strangely happy about it, although there is no infrastructure anymore, so anyone can be a criminal who can do whatever crap he likes in this completely lawless world. The end. What happened to the good king they were supposed to find? What a pile of bull, just interesting concepts without any sense of build-up or plot continuity. I can't give it more than a 3 out of 10.